This is All the Things with Michelle Wolfe. All right, thank you for joining us. Welcome to All the Things with Michelle Wolfe. Tonight I am introducing Jen Eggerts. I'm going to call you the co-editor of this book because that is really what you were. So this is part of the Mixtape Memories series and talking about our book. This little ribbon is not going to be on here when this actually gets published, but it's so awesome to like hold this. I'm going to hand it over to Jen. She's going to actually interview me, and we'll just kind of talk back and forth about our process in the editing of this book, Mixtape Memories.
Excellent. Thank you. First, thank you for letting me do this. I was really excited, and I wasn't sure when I brought it up that you would want to do it, but the whole process of doing this and starting it. And I remember when you brought this up to me the first time, and you were, oh, I got this idea. What do you think? And I mean, I wish you could have seen my face at the time because I was so excited. And I think I danced around with Sammy or something to the general effect that one does when they get excited. And I thought to myself, I really hope she does this. And I, at the time, wasn't actually sure whether or not it would actually come to fruition because, again, we're both busy and we both have ideas a lot. And then you were like, I'm doing it.
I remember having that conversation with you, and
Mhm.
it felt different. I was so lit up inside, for this project. It brought me to life, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It did. So my first question is, where was that shift for you? When did you realize it was something that you were actually going to do versus just something that was an idea?
Okay, the concept of this came to me from a dream. Like I woke up and wrote in my notes and my phone, book of songs.
Mhm.
And I didn't even know what that meant at the time, but I was just like, hmm. And then I remember having that like spark of, okay, I am going to share the songs that are meaningful to me because music has always been deeply meaningful to me and impactful and cathartic. Um, and if you read the chapters, you'll see. I mean, things from of course, heartbreak. It's always been there for me with heartbreak. And I don't mean just relationship like with men, but just in general, like throughout my whole life, heartbreak over family situations, over friend situations. Like it's always been like that companion.
Mhm.
Um, but then also processing mental health stuff, PTSD, like my chapter crawling. I mean, that crawling in my skin, these wounds, they will not heal. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, this is like a decade of therapy but even before that, that song was something for me in college, like driving around, getting lost, playing that song and just like letting that rage energy out, you know? I think it really was when I realized because it felt like a lot to think, okay, how am I going to write this all by myself? Like, do I have enough songs to share? You know what I mean? And then when I realized, like, oh my God, what if I invite community into this? Like, what if I make this collaborative? And I think that's when I can feel it now. Like, that's when I was like, aha, I can do this. Because then I don't have to write 20 something chapters myself. I can, and then it just felt less burdensome. And then when I started talking about it, and then sharing it and people were like, yeah, I would like to contribute to that. And at first I'm like, do they mean it? Are they really gonna? Because people will say they will and then they don't. And that's fine, but like I needed people to really be on board. But when you were like one of the first people that was like, yeah, I can do that. And I was like, okay, I think she means it. Um, and then it just really like it felt real, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I remember you asking me, and at the time answering yes, with again of the how often do these projects actually make it cover to cover? And when you just held up the book, I mean, it was the first time that I actually saw it. Um, so there it is.
I
And
can't wait for you to hold it and just, I mean, really, like I now know what it feels like to like have a book baby, to bring something like this to life and what that means, you know?
yeah,
Yeah,
so there it is.
I know.
And the I'm trying to throughout this process, the there are several threads, so to speak, that I was privileged enough to be a part of. From the starting off of how to execute this and the original call to action, and then the
Keeping me
collect.
sane. Really.
Mhm,
And really, I do want to say, I mean, without you, I'm not sure that I could have like done this. Truly. You have, because when you're managing something like this where I mean there's multiple authors, right? So the threads of that felt like if I'm in the center, I'm being pulled in all these directions. And I'm
mhm,
trying to manage this process with all these people. And this is very emotional too, like people are revisiting tough moments. People are revisiting, deep cathartic memory things. And to be able to, number one, ask them to go back there and retell a story that's hard. Because I know like there were some chapters that I wrote them and then I could not go back to them for a while. I was like, I can't even read that again. That was I felt really scattered like throughout this process multiple times, and that's overwhelming for me. And you like kept me sane.
I had the benefit of being able to manage the project without having to emotionally manage the contributors,
Yeah,
and that's the difference. You were the mother of this project, so to speak, and you did me or continued to do me the honor of being able to come in and hold space for that and to build enough of a gentle, container around it so you can do what you need to do.
yeah.
Because the thing is when you are, at least, you know, as two women who have project management backgrounds, there's the project and then there's the people in the project. And so often those are two totally different things. And the
Yeah,
project doesn't get done without the people, and the people can't do the project without guidance. And very rare, I mean, trying to straddle that's almost impossible. And the people really, one thing that I appreciate about this book, more so than other types of anthologies that I've read over the years, is people went there.
they did. They did. I know.
Um,
Reading some of, and I know you did too, like 'cause some of these chapters, I cried.
Me too.
And I was just in awe. And I was like, wow.
Again, like crawling.
I remember when you edited that one for me and you wrote me a comment. I don't remember what you said, but it was like something to the effect of like, you were in awe of me or that I inspire you or something. And I know that we know each, I might cry. I know that
Yeah.
we know each other's stories, but like it is different. I don't know. There's something different about seeing it on paper like that. Like when I read your Hold Back the River, which I fucking love that song now. Um, I mean, I was like, yes, yes, yeah, like it just sunk into my heart. So,
The human spirit, you and I both know, can be absolutely unwavering and just indomitable. And some of the things that you and I have survived and lived through, and then gone on to thrive despite
hmm
or because, however you want to
yeah.
inform that, and claim those statements, you're right, to see it in paper and to really look at that and reading a lot of these entries, you get to see yourself a little bit differently.
hmm Yeah. It was deeply cathartic doing this. And I mean, to me, this is volume one. Like I
Mhm.
already have volume two in mind. I already have songs that I'm like, oh, I didn't include that one. Oh, I didn't make this point about music that, I didn't tell the story about, being a kid and how you actually wait for the song on the radio and you press
Yeah, oh man.
record or play and record. You had to do it at the same time. You had to try not to get the DJ, whatever VJ,
Uh-huh.
commercials and stuff like. And if it did, it totally ruined it. And then you had to wait again until you heard that song. I mean, that was a whole process, like making a mixtape.
It was.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then how the evolution of that, right? Like we went from mixtapes to then CDs came out and then burnable CDs. So then you were making playlists, you
Mhm.
know.
Remember let's see here, there was Napster,
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Huzzah, and you never
Mhm.
really knew what the quality was going to be, or
Or
whether
if the
or
police
not you
would
were
show up.
committing piracy.
But then that was the birth of Spotify.
Yeah, it was.
And then there was I remember when Spotify first came out and there was the sort of backlash from the
Yep.
music industry and artists and legit, like I get it. Because suddenly people weren't buying CDs anymore. You remember the days when we would go to FYE or whatever at the mall and get those CDs or what was that delivery service? Columbia House?
Columbia House.
Yeah. Where you would get like 11 CDs for 10 cents a CD or a cent. I don't know. It was something
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. That if you signed up, you got the 11 CDs. It was 1 cent, and then they billed you
It was a monthly.
ad infinitum for the rest of your life,
Yes.
like canceling it. Um, oh man.
I had so many CDs. And it's funny because then I had all these CDs and then burnable CDs came out. And
Uh-huh.
so then we took all those CDs and we burned them on the computer. Oh my God.
Oh,
I appreciate where we've come to at this point where you don't have to do that.
yeah.
So
I In my new car, it's a trip. It doesn't even have
mine
X
is there.
XM anything. It literally, you just plug in your phone and it's all the apps.
Yep.
And I was thinking about back in the day when you had the radio dial and you could, I just,
And then remember you had the like cassette player, but then they had the CD, like the portable CD thing that you plugged into the cassette player
Mhm.
with the lighter outlet
Yeah,
and then
uh-huh.
but then like it might bump.
Yeah. Or if you slam on the brakes and the
We've
CD
come so
player,
far.
I know. I mean, people are going to be watching this, and if they're under the age of 25, are going to have no idea what we're
I
talking
know. I know.
about. How did we get
Also, I
old? When
love
did
that
that
though.
happen?
Like that, like look how far we've come with technology and how quickly we have evolved as
Yeah.
a result. And even I mean, I know you and I have had discussions about AI and things like with these technological advances, like it's just exponential, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
And they're coming.
yeah.
It's not I mean, there is always the debate of, well, should we?
hmm
But the should we or should we not is not going to stop us from going.
Yeah, I mean, we are, I always say this, we are adaptable beings, from the beginning of evolution until we continue on. Like this is just part of our growth experience here. So,
Mhm.
you know, yeah.
And how do we fail forward? And that is one thing that I love so much about so many of these entries is that you have people talking about failing forward, loving forward,
Yeah.
healing forward. And it,
Such good lessons. Like I feel like
Mhm.
each chapter is like a life lesson in some way or another,
Yeah.
you know?
And there are clearly themes, um, heartbreak as far as losing lovers, heartbreak as far as losing family, losing
hmm
friends, reuniting. It all of the the core human emotions that we all go through set up against the tapestry of everybody's individual lives and how they define alchemy.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah. I do really feel like there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a book where like I had this idea that like this would be what is it called, a coffee table book or something.
Yeah,
Or it could be bathroom reading. Like you can just pick it up and turn to a chapter, and just
totally.
read that chapter and put it down and sit with that. Like it doesn't have to be a book that you read all the way through, it can just be like, oh, let me visit this one, you know.
It's one of those books that you can pick up and flip to any page and basically put your finger on a paragraph and read and be like, "Oh, hey,
I
that's
actually did that today. I love that you just said that. I actually did that today. I was watching this reader on TikTok and she said something about like if you have a book near you, turn to page 26. And I was like, all right, fine.
okay,
Let me just
but
try.
not because you asked me."
And actually, I think what is page 26 on this one?
Hmm.
Because I did it and I was like, okay, there must be something in here for me. Oh, this is Martha's chapter.
Oh,
And this is the first chapter. And the first chapter is Mixtape Memories, which,
uh-huh.
so what did I come to on that page? Bittersweet. She made bittersweet memories for me before she left. Such beautiful memories laced with the bitterness of goodbye. Like, and then I was like, well, there it is.
There it is. Yep. You know what
So,
would actually be fun is to take a passage from each one and kind of just string together a little
ooh, like a camel.
narrative.
I like that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Hmm.
When you were editing this, did you have like a favorite? I don't know if that's a fair question, but
There was, and I thought that you might ask me this at some point, and I've thought about it quite a bit myself because, as you know, we went through this several times, and there were different points in time where they had to be edited in such a way that there were not going to be trademark infringements, essentially.
Mhm.
So we had to go back and forth, and there are several that I had not heard the songs before, which, and when I say several, I think there were like 3 total that I hadn't heard the song. Um, and then I went and I listened to the song, and because it was the first time I'd heard the song, then it just stuck a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
tenderly. Um, and then finding how many other people cherished some of the same songs that I do, and for very similar reasons.
Yeah. Like I was so glad that you chose You Get What You Give. I love that song.
Mhm,
And I mean, when you were like, oh yeah, I think that was the first one that you
mhm,
were gonna do. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad you're doing that one. Cause like I just couldn't, I had already had like 5 songs that I was trying to write about, you know,
yeah,
and I was totally like happy that I didn't have to write about that one, that somebody else, and I so looked forward to like what that was gonna be for you. Cause
mhm,
it's such a, that's a song like that when it comes on. It just I don't know how to explain it. Like there's a like tenderness, there's a liveliness that it pulls out of me.
mhm,
That makes
and
sense?
yes, and it's one that, I mean, you and I fall in a very small, like, niche generation where we started our teenage years without much technology, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak, and then watch.
Dial-up internet, baby.
Yep. Wow. AOL, that takes me back. But then there we had this expanse in technology, and there was also so much, sometimes I feel like we're a little bit of a lost generation in the fact that I mean, like, we're like a micro generation of Zennials,
Hmm.
and that particular song, um, I have found that we all relate to the feeling a bit like we were forgotten
Yes.
and having to forge a way to survive on less.
Yeah.
And, Gen X, to a certain extent, like, they had this big, like, they at least had support of each other. And, like, for whatever reason, our generation in some respects was almost reared to fear each other. It's just
Mhm.
like coming off of the latchkey kids, and it'll, as someone who was a sociology major and observes systems for a living, I mean, it's always fascinating. But just reading through some of these entries and so clearly looking at this and going, oh, so I'm not the only one that feels like something's missing, even though there doesn't seem to be anything missing, and that we had to go find that for ourselves.
And that's where I think like music was something that made me feel less alone.
Yeah.
It was something that I could get lost in,
Mhm.
but also that I could like find myself in at the same time, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That it was a safe place to land.
Hmm.
Which reminds me of another really good song, "A Safe Place to Land" by Sarah Bareilles and John Lennon, or Legend, excuse me.
Okay.
Um, but that there's safety there.
And I don't know about you, but I grew up watching Behind the Music on
Uh-huh.
VH1. Oh my God,
Beach.
I loved that. And I always felt connected to, I'm going to call it the plight of the creative, like the
Mhm.
plight of the artist, right? Like they always seem to have these just terrible, sad, tumultuous stories and things that they've had to overcome. And I remember, like, I mean, being like a young teenager with whatever was going on in my life, thinking, if these people can go through what they're going, like their story, you
Mhm.
know, stories about addiction and abuse and all the things, like there's hope for me.
Yeah.
You know, I can do it too. Like, look what they became, you know?
Yeah.
That you, and I think that's like, that sort of paved the way in my mind of like emotional alchemy and using my painful experience to like through a creative process, you know, to
Mhm.
alchemize that, to
Yeah.
make something of that. And that is, I think, how I really started finding the silver lining in things. And that is just like become like a default response at this point.
That resilience is the knee-jerk reaction
Hmm.
at this point.
Yeah.
And I mean, how long did it take to, build that kind of process and program? I mean, that's what, music is great for.
Yeah.
It's the background to poignant moments in our lives.
Do you like, for me, sometimes, like, okay, there's a song, Anxiety. I
Mhm.
don't know who the artist is,
I
but
don't
it's a song right now. And I love the beat of the song. And I even love like the chorus kind of, but like I actually don't want to sing it. Like I don't want to keep talking about my anxiety. You know what I mean? Like I no, like I don't want to talk about it.
And, it's funny that you bring this up, and because I was walking Sammy, my dog. Well, you know,
No,
but
it's fine. We could clarify.
yeah, clarifying. But I was walking her today and I had earbuds in and I was listening to Pandora and I had it on some 80s station and George Michael's song came on. And it was the one where there's the church choir that sings in the
Okay.
background. And I'm trying to
I know.
remember
I was like, which one is it?
which one.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
It's not, I think I'm, why am I blanking on it? But oh,
I'll
it's
look
not,
it up.
it's not, yeah, look it up. It's not I Want Your Sex. But that was what came to, you can
I
tell
was
it's
thinking
Friday.
Careless Whisper. Or what's that
Yeah,
other one that I'm like, I love? Oh my God. Father Figure. I freaking love that song.
yeah. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was Father Figure. Faith.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Uh, um,
I definitely remember that song from my
yeah.
childhood.
But as I was,
I can even clearly see the video.
yeah,
Yeah.
Captain Obvious, choir singers, Faith. Come on, Jen. But as I was listening to it, it made me like I stepped back into all of the moments where I was sitting in church and mostly on holidays. But when the choir starts to sing and just I would get overwhelmed and just start crying.
Hmm.
And it never had anything to do even with the words, but it was that many people making a joyful noise at the same time inside of a place where you are repeatedly told that you are
Yeah.
loved by something bigger than yourself. And I'm
It's
like,
moving.
that's what music is to me. That's it. That's the whole thing right there.
It's moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I mean, so I wrote about the song Happy by Pharrell.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that song, I don't care what mood I'm in, I can't help it.
Yeah.
Like
And you even say that in the
you
passage.
can't like I can't not clap. I'll be driving my car
Mhm.
and I'm like clap along. You know what I mean? But
'Cause
like
I'm
that's the thing,
happy.
like so emotion, right, is energy in motion. And I love that like music evokes such emotion in us
Mhm.
and it helps us move energy. And like even, scientifically, we can trace this in our body, how, because even, the song Happy, like it makes me want to jump around.
Yeah.
Or the song Jump Around, like jump,
Yeah.
just do it.
Jump up and get down.
Yeah. I mean, how many times do you hear a song and you can't help but like sing to it, or you
Yeah.
can't help but um move your body? It's so good for us. It
Mhm.
really helps to move stagnant energy. And that like on the other side of that, I in my podcast interview with Lana Ryder. She's
Uh-huh.
like a master sound practitioner,
Yeah.
talking about how, like I was saying, you can actually, I can find myself being melancholy and like listening to songs that keep me in that space. But I've gotten
Mhm.
so much better at noticing that, where I'm like, you know what? I've had enough of this energy.
Yeah.
Like
It
to be down.
there was a Michael Jackson song that came out that was actually on the Free Willy soundtrack in 1993.
Yeah.
And it
I love that song.
I can't listen to it anymore
What?
because it is significant of a very, very difficult period in my life.
Hmm.
And it was what played. It's that it very similar to Pearl Jam's Jeremy.
Hmm.
Like those two songs. But what's great is they're containers.
Yeah.
So, and I have at different points in time put them back on specifically to open that emotion, to open that period of my life and to step back in and, or like when it comes on the radio, of the appreciation for the person that was going through those moments at that time. And even though I don't regularly listen to them, it's still meaningful. Those are
Yeah.
still compartments in my life that matter. And I would not be able to recall them without the music.
That's how I feel about Linkin Park.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I feel like I was in such a dark place at the time that I think it was the album Meteora came out. So that was like 2003, something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, I remember like I think I graduated college or I was about to graduate
Uh-huh.
college, and I just remember feeling so lost.
Me too.
And
I think it was 2003 because I do
for
remember.
real, like driving around
Oh
playing,
03, oh 04, oh 02, oh 03, oh 04.
yeah. And just because I think it was the whatever the album was before that one is where I think in the end or maybe crawling. I don't remember. I'm not
Mhm.
getting it right. But I just remember like for me, and now I can't really like it's not that I can't, but I know that if I go back there, if I go back to that place, like I'm going back there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But it is helpful to like, because Crawling is a song that I still hear on the radio. But
Yeah.
there were other songs on the album that aren't on the radio. And, I'll hear it and I'm like, no, I don't feel like listening to it this time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change it. Or I'll listen to it and I'm like, this just doesn't feel, and I talk about that, like how a song doesn't, it hits different.
Mhm.
Um,
It totally hits
and
different.
I'm so appreciative of being able to see that in myself, where I'm like, I'm not that girl anymore. Like and even in moments now where like I kind of feel a little lost right now, but not at all in the same way. Like I've come to a place where like then I didn't have myself,
Yeah.
you know?
It's the mm, what I hear you saying, my observation is that you have learned to tether yourself to yourself
Yeah.
in music instead of tethering yourself to the music or an outcome or someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It is an infinity symbol back to you.
Or to an experience, right?
Yeah.
Like to the past and the memories and the heartbreaks and the things that I had to overcome. Like
Mm.
in the processing of all of that, um, and that's why I love EMDR so much because when you process it, you just don't, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel the same in your body. You know, you release it. Like, so yeah. And that's why I love, I mean, even my journey into everything is energy really came through sound. It came through sound, through music. Watching, I was in grad school and I was doing research for a paper and I watched this video on the acoustic levitation of water droplets.
Hmm.
I had this like epiphany moment where I was like, everything is energy. And that just became it like solidified as truth.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think that, and it just like, even in my Reiki practice, I always used sound, you know, because it affects us so much.
It totally does. And it, wow, this really takes me back. So I don't know if you had them there. They were called Circuit City and they were
Hmm.
electronic stores. Yeah.
Yeah.
And was I in, yeah, I was in high school. For whatever reason, we were as a family going to a movie and we stopped at Circuit City. And remember how they used to have those stereo rooms where you could go inside and close the
Yeah.
doors and things could just get so loud. And of course, this is way before I realized, like, oh, hey, I'm an empath and like, but I remember standing in the room and everything's vibrating. And like my vision starts to do these weird things. And I'm like, I'm in a fishbowl and none of this is real.
Yes. Oh my God. I love that.
So now I'm sitting here and I'm going like this with my hand and I'm seeing all the light legs coming off of it as it does when you start to expand. And my sister looks at me and basically is like, you know, you're insane, right? And I'm like, well, of course. But it was just that moment of it's all connected.
Yeah.
In one way, shape, or form, it's all the same thing. It's different configurations, but it's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, music.
I know. I know. And that's why, with this book, like we have our experiences of the storytelling, the arrangement, the way that it affected and impacted all of us.
Mhm.
But I would so love, if any of the artists that are still living, who we wrote about, if they end up somehow reading this, my small little book here, I would love for, I mean, I'm sure they get letters from people all the time telling them these things, but that's like, that to me is the full circle.
Yeah.
It's like you as the artist, as the writer, as the person who put this together, like you get to see the impact that you've had on people and how deeply like you can affect someone's life, that you can help them heal. And it's not very different from like if I will write a post about something that I'm struggling with or
Mhm.
whatever, and somebody will send me a message and they'll be like, I mean, I've actually had multiple people. I had somebody write me a letter once, after doing a reading, and she told me that, she had thought about ending her life. And after that reading, she was like she was inspired again. She felt hopeful again. Like it changed everything for her.
Mhm.
Um, and people say stuff like that to me, and I'm not like out here doing it for that reason. Although I think part of my purpose is I always do want people to remember they're not alone. And that probably stems from my, you know, stuff like of feeling alone myself. So, but I mean, it's something that like is deeply connective for all of us. And it's a universal language and it spans, it doesn't matter. And that's something about this book too, is it's a diverse group of authors. not only are we diverse in culture, but in age range, all of that. So I love that
Hmm.
because,
And again, they're, music by Pastor Troy, for example, who I had never heard of,
right?
that now shows up on several of my playlists because it was Kim, right? Kimberly,
I think
who,
so.
yeah.
I'll have to look.
And
And I
it,
think she asked me if I'm remembering. Yeah, it was Kimberly. Good memory. Um, I think she
I
asked me
read a lot. It's
if
funny.
she, see, for me, they all blend. I
Hmm.
was like, absolutely, you can include that. She's like, are you sure that you're okay with a song like that? And I was like, yeah, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hmm.
And I think it was George Burns or some like a very old comedian that said it takes all kinds.
Mm.
And it's something that my grandmother used to say a lot. And that was her response to so many of life's unsolvable riddles. Well, it takes all kinds.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've heard people use it as almost like an insult. But when I was reading through so many of these and then going and actually listening to some of the songs and realizing like, oh no, this doesn't work for me at all. Um, but then I would go back and very often as I was editing the passage for the second time, I'd put the song on as I was editing. And I would take a moment to take a walk in the author's shoes
Hmm.
and just really like, okay, so what would it have felt like to be there at that time
Hmm.
inside of that moment? Um, and it's one experience to do that when you're just reading it. It was a very different experience to do it with the song
Yeah.
as you were
And
reading.
I do hope that so the bark with the what is this? The QR code,
Yeah.
whether you buy it or not, you can listen to the Spotify playlist. And actually you can go on Spotify and just search Mixtape Memories. There's a playlist, it's public. Um, and just check it out. But I really encourage anybody that does end up buying the book to listen to it with the song because it's just
Absolutely. It's the
like,
whole point.
yeah. I mean, and I when I was writing some of my chapters, I would put the song on and I would just play it on repeat while
Hmm.
I was, writing. Um, Now some of them I don't want to listen to right now because I probably
Or
overplayed
have
it.
permission in.
But I know that I'll get back to it. I mean, that's kind of how music, like it does, it does that. Like I'll play a song on repeat. I don't know if you're somebody that does that, but I will. Like I'll be going through something. Like Taylor Swift's Down Bad.
Bad.
Ugh, like I outplayed that song.
Yeah. I have outplayed You Get What You Give. But the nice thing is when you outplay it during multiple periods in your life, it no longer just has that tag of the one note of whatever it was. And actually that brings up a really interesting question. For those of us who do play music as a form of therapy, what do you hope people get out of this?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, I think I hope that they gain some understanding of the psychology of music and how it actually, because we do go into in the forward, which is written by Tamara Driscoll, and she's a mentor and a counselor that I've worked with for a few years. And she gets into some of like the psychology behind it. So I think having that understanding of the impact, but also I'd love it if people would see themselves in some of these stories. I think that's always my hope, even in my own sharing, in my own writing, on social media or whatever. Like, I know for myself, when I have been able to see myself in someone else's story, it lands differently for me. And so anybody that's going through any kind of thing right now, whether, it's heartbreak or it's grief or it's loss or it's bliss and joyfulness because it's in there too, or it's, I love Lewis's chapter. We both commented on his, like, just how funny that was and how needed that was because of some of the heaviness of the other stories. Um, I hope that people see themselves in some of these chapters and again, like feel less alone or reconnect with parts of themselves that maybe they forgot.
Mhm.
That too. Like, and that's some of there's, okay, so we can talk about the e-guide or whatever, the workbook that goes along with this. Because that's like, I think it's like 7 steps to reclaim your story through song. And it's like,
Uh,
we can get so bogged down in our day to day, right? But like we all have a story to tell. Like we have many stories to tell. And so like I think it's a journey of nostalgia and remembering, because that's it. Like music evokes memory,
Yeah.
um, and all the emotion that come along with that.
I'm looking at the playlist and it's so interesting because when you edit a document and you spend a lot of time with it, you start I mean, it starts to get etched in your mind a little bit. So as I'm reading through it, it's Wish You Were Here by Incubus. And then the next thing that goes through my head is the name of the author.
Hmm.
Um,
Which is another one. Like I love Incubus, and I was so happy that Becca chose an Incubus song because I was like, how can I write a book and not include Incubus in it? And then like now I don't have to because she's gonna do it. And she did
she
a
took
great
care of it
job.
and she
Yeah.
did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
Because
one
I
of
was
the,
like, I have my own experience with that song. I wonder what hers is, And that's how I felt about you when you were writing what's that song again?
you
You
get
Get
what you
What You
give.
Give.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I'm so curious, like, what her story will be, Yeah.
Mhm. And Incubus again is such a like it's potent in my history, but it's a relatively short period of time.
Hmm.
So there's anytime I hear any of it, it takes me back there. Um, which well, that's a good question. Hmm. So you and I both know as psychology buffs that memory is not actually recollective,
Hmm.
that it's actually reconstructive. So to take ourselves back to those periods in our life, we actually need some sort of environmental trigger quite
Hmm.
a bit. So I'm curious, do you think that we can grow by taking ourselves back to the people we were? Does
Oh, I absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I actually think that like is a necessary process for our evolution. Like I think sometimes, and especially, you and I have talked about this because um personal growth and development is so important to both of us. And we
Mhm.
can be doers. Like we can be going all the time and like we both can tend to be hard on ourselves. Although I think we've gotten better.
I think so as well. I was just going to say the same thing.
And
Look at
I think
us.
we've gotten better partly because of the mirroring that we do with each other. Like I
Mhm.
know having you as my friend has been so helpful for me because I'll say like what I'm like having a hard time with, and I'll know you'll hear me being hard on myself, and you'll offer me this like beautiful acknowledgement, and I'm like, yeah, like I just being seen in the mirror is so helpful. But I think that like we need to do that for ourselves and like take a note of how far we've come, and sometimes you need to be able to go back to a place, you know.
Well, and it's that whole training adage or that's been around forever, see one, do one, teach one.
Hmm.
Um, and how rarely we across the board get the opportunity to teach one.
Hmm.
Um, and you and I have had the opportunity to see one, do one on a lot of really horrific things. Um, that not that some people just don't get up from. And because of that, or despite it, I mean, depending on your perspective, um, there's a
Maybe it's
certain,
both.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a certain level of quiet resilience that comes from it, where you just recognize and almost grok in someone else that they understand just the there but before the grace of God go I in
Mm.
anything that anybody says at any time. Because I mean, you survive the impossible once, you think, shit, I got out, I'm great, I'm awesome. You survive the impossible multiple times, and you realize that life is a beast.
I think that's where like I really started to lean into stoicism.
Yeah.
And I think like I do think some people get that like I'll say confused where like to me stoicism is not not feeling things.
Yeah, it's not avoidance.
It's not, yeah, it's really like you allow it in, but it doesn't like I'm still going to show up for my life. I'm still going to look for the good. Like it doesn't rock me off of my center. And if I
Mm-hmm,
do get knocked off, like I find my way back. And in doing that, like I'm able to find my way back again and again, easier and faster than before. So that's another time where like in that looking back where you're like, and we've talked about this,
mm-hmm.
like I didn't, this time I was maybe sad for a day instead of a week, or you know what I mean? And you start to like take note of those little changes
Yeah,
that if you weren't paying attention, you would overlook.
correct. That it on some level there's, I mean, if we want to look at it from the overarching large to small, that you've got the system here, and then over here you've got everyday behaviors. So you've got systems and processes and procedures, and all the way down to the micro to the macro. Um, and for good or for bad or somewhere in the middle. Um, you and I have both studied resilience enough to understand what goes into that.
Mhm.
Um, and we've both studied human nature enough to recognize that the passageways for that come about in all different ways. And some of what was so refreshing about reading this was that, I mean, you can look at song lyrics, and I mean, there are definitely, as putting the book together, of themes,
Mhm.
and but you read the song lyrics, and then some of the songs you're like, that I hadn't heard. I was sort of expecting one genre and then got something else.
Yeah.
And it's there's the words, and then there's the actual music. Um, and how those varying experiences, it's kind of a window into someone of like, oh, so that's how you relate to that emotion. I don't know that I would have put that together, but now that you bring it up, hey, I bet I can move a lot of shit through my nervous system like this.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So
It was like a cheat sheet.
I had a session with playlists are so important. I mean, So important. I had a session with Daniela Matutes,
Uh-huh.
and as part of her the somatic healing case study that she was doing, which I so love that she's doing that. The playlist that she put together for that was fire. I mean, just yeah.
She came to me at the start of that project and said, I want to do this thing. Will you help me basically just like, she's like, all I really want you to do is to just, I want you to go back and forth with me and we're going to record it. And I just want you to think of considerations and
That's
just,
awesome. Yeah.
and put it together in a map. Um, because her mind works a lot like ours does, and she's absolutely brilliant. But the thing is that sometimes you can't extract your brilliance on your own.
Yeah. Well,
You
I
need,
I needed you. Like
yeah,
I was legit could not have done this without you. Really.
thank you. And yes, you could have. Yes,
I
you
know
could have.
you say that, but like I think I would have been so overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed and scattered. And and that's just hard for me to wrangle myself. And
Well,
the
and
parts of like I
that's,
couldn't touch it, and you helped me. You
but
like
that's
are really good at extracting that like brilliance out of someone.
all I really did was put guardrails on it.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes that's all that you need. Um, Creatives, artists like we are, it's hard to see the forest through the trees
Yeah.
sometimes. And especially when you're super brilliant and things come out of you all the time that are life altering. So it's not like you say a brilliant thing once every 6 months. I mean, we've been friends for years now, and you say a brilliant thing in every other conversation we have. So it's just this run of this mill thing for you because it is what it is and you are who you are. But it doesn't change the fact that most of these brilliant things that you say are equal parts inspiration and perspiration. So it's like, oh, someone has to say that. Because when brilliant things come out of your mouth 24/7, or they run through your head, like you don't know, like
I'll
legit.
remember that every time I say like.
Yeah, legit. I mean, I was
Oh.
sitting in a meeting this afternoon and I had this thought in my head, and I'm like, this is either the best idea I've ever had, or if it comes out of my mouth, I'm getting fired. And I just wrote it down and kept it to myself and moved along because it's still a little too early in the game for Jen goes wild at a staff meeting.
The complete unmasking.
Yeah. Uh, but it being brilliant isn't always easy. I mean, as Kermit said, it's not easy being great.
Uh,
So
well,
I deeply appreciate that every time you hit a wall with this, you kept going. Because there were a couple of places where and it wasn't a purpose. And there were never any super major stalls. But there were times where it just went quiet a little bit. And
mhm.
there were a couple of them where I just left them because either I didn't have the bandwidth at the time to handle it if you said, let's go, or that just it needed to be okay to just let it sit
I
and not
really, yeah,
have
like,
that be a criticism on perfectionism or
mhm.
anything like that. Simply that the project can have its own rhythm and we can let it do what it needs to do.
Oh, that's so perfectly said. Really. I mean, and I really tried to, I think, adopt that way of thinking about this. in the holding space for the various authors to have their process. You know, I mean, like of course I had to like have due dates for things,
Yeah.
but I was always like relatively flexible and understanding of the emotional labor that went along with the writing of the chapter because you had to go back to that experience and extract it from yourself and put it on paper. Um, and just the like emotional journey that everybody was going on in different ways. And that was I was really proud of myself because I know me, like I know how I can be sometimes where I'm like it's not about anybody else, it's more like my own worrying of like the time crunch of my own pressure, right? Like so
Mhm.
I really tried to like not have hard lines for things and have like expectation in that way. Like it was, yeah, it was very collaborative, I want to say, this
Mhm.
whole experience.
Well, and as we got closer to publishing dates, the one thing that I really appreciated as someone who was both on the inside and on the outside at the same time, because I was a participant observer, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, um, is that we had discussions about some of the emails that were going out at different points in time, and you would just gently bounce off me, is this too harsh? Is this not harsh enough? And harsh probably isn't the right word, but hey Jen, I need to send this email, and like we're getting close, and I really, really want these people to participate if they really want to participate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anybody to feel judged or hurt or frustrated or anxious.
Or called out.
Yeah. And I also want to honor the excitement that they had at the beginning of this project when they put their hand up.
Yeah.
Um, and there was this moment, and I think it was at one point when we were actually going through just some of these chapters. I don't remember exactly what, but it was that you didn't want anybody to regret participating or not participating.
Yeah.
You wanted to give everybody the opportunity to show up or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there were definitely some people that I knew wanted to participate, and then I could feel that they were pressuring themselves or like, and I get that. I get that when maybe you really want to do something, but then whatever's happening, you can something that's so exciting can become like a negative thing depending on, and I really it was a fine line of like accountability and holding space.
I had to write Hold Back the River before I could finish You Get What You Give.
Hmm.
That it, like I got probably about 2/3 of the way through. And then I mean, it was, I think I actually sent over a version to you that was just all chopped up in places because I hadn't fully like I'd written it and I couldn't look at it anymore. Like I couldn't even proof it, like vet it for anything.
That's how I was with November Rain.
Yeah, I was like, it's done enough.
I was
Like,
like, I cannot even
yeah,
proof it.
yeah, just no. Here, somebody take it, do something with it, change 6 sentences or whatever, and then I can open it up again, but I can't look at it. So then I went and wrote Hold Back the River and I could finish it. And I wrote Hold Back the River in my car while listening to Hold Back the River on my phone.
I love
And it
that.
took me like 25 minutes to do. And that's, I mean, that's the way it goes sometimes. I mean, but it, in walking through that process with you at different points in time, And it was as much an exercise in watching the human spirit move as it was anything else.
Yes. Oh, I love how you said that. I mean, it was. And for each person that I worked with on this, like in whatever way that, we touched, it was like a witnessing of the human experience in every person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see. You'll appreciate this. Not everybody in my life would, but I deeply believe that the human spirit leaves marks everywhere it goes, like tattoos.
Hmm.
And that's why I'm really looking forward to actually putting my hands on the book, um, because it's all of it and it's all in there. So it's the physical of it's going to change somebody's life.
It changed mine.
Yeah, it changed
I say
mine.
that.
Yeah. But at some point, somebody, wherever it is, I mean, maybe it's in a library 5 years from now, or someone happens to find it on wherever they happen to find it. And it's going to change their life. And it's going to be something unexpected for them. There will be lots of people that will buy this book on some level, at least somewhat aware that it could change their lives, or they wouldn't be surprised by it. But at some point, some kid is probably going to pick up that book that's sitting on somebody's coffee table at a family gathering that they're like, please get me the fuck out of here. And that book's going to change their life. And I mean, that right there, it's, your see one, do one, teach one.
Yeah.
That's, for me, it's, and it's not even in a people pleasing or a perfectionist kind of way. It's, may I leave the world better than the way I found it.
Yeah.
Or
And
may I make 0.00001% or higher positive difference by having been here.
yeah. Yeah, I think for me it's about connectedness.
Yeah.
And I am so proud of how we put this together and I talk a lot about collaboration and community. And I feel like this book, this project is like a beautiful example of walking that talk. Like from the collaboration on the editing process and the building of it, right? But also the authors coming in and the collaboration that happened with each of them and the back and forth of offering feedback and having to do that in a way that's like very gentle and um supportive, and like that was a really cool process for me. I really enjoyed editing, which I didn't know that I would like that. I was really enjoying being, because it was almost like, I mean, I work with clients one-on-one, and here I am working with authors one-on-one and holding this space and encouraging them and reading their stories and connecting, like having.
Well, and it's funny. I mean, I hadn't put this together until just now, but I have the job I have today in part because of doing the editing work on this book, that I would not have probably applied for this job because I would have looked at it and gone, am I actually going to enjoy editing, like being a
Hmm.
technical writer? As like, I don't know that I would have applied for it, even though my resume fit the skills.
Hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah. Tammy is giving me the stink eye right now. You should see this. Can you see her? All right, let's see.
Oh, I do. Oh, it must be time.
She's
Well, So here, I will bring us to a close and say, Mixtape Memories comes out on Amazon June 10th. You can pre-order it between now and then. If you pre-order it, you get a signed copy and a free workbook that goes along with it, the 7 steps guide. Um, there's a Spotify playlist that goes along with it that you can listen to whenever you want to. And I have so many ideas. I know that you and I have talked about some of the things that I'd love to invite again, like community to share their songs that touch them, that like maybe we can build a playlist together. I'd love to hear from people, like what songs were moving for you. And please feel free to share them because I'd love to hear that. And what else can I say? Um, when it goes for sale on Amazon, it'll be $12.99 plus whatever shipping and things go along with that. Anybody that pre-orders it, it's I think it's $17.99. That just includes the shipping and the taxes. Um, and I'm so excited. I mean, this is my baby, and I'm so proud. I think this is going to be a great summer read. I'm so proud of this, really.
I think it's a great summer read. It's a great coffee table book. It's it's one of those that every time you pick it up, you get a little something different out of it
Yeah,
in ways that are deeply enriching and surprising.
there's something for everyone, for
There
sure.
really is.
And anybody that does get a chance to read it, I mean, I would love to hear your feedback and hear, the impact, because I think that's what it's all about.
Well,
That's what
and
it was about for all of us.
it's
So,
a living anthology.
yeah. So,
I
thank
want
you
it
all
to live
for,
through others.
yeah. And like this is just volume one. Like I already have volume two in my mind, and I have like even a volume for soundtracks. Because soundtrack music is it's different, right? Like, so there's just I have so many ideas for where this can go. So
I
this is
have
just the
soundtrack
beginning.
playlists.
Yes, I know. And that's a whole thing.
Gladiator music comes on. I roll down my window. It's go time.
That's how I feel about the Stranger Things soundtrack. Um, yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I just this is just the beginning, I think. So thank you for being a part of this with me, and thank you for um, just holding my hand through this and keeping me sane, not letting me spiral. So
You're very welcome. You did not need as much assistance as I think you might have thought that you did. And it continues to be my honor and pleasure to do so. And thank you for putting this together and walking through it and holding space and facilitating everyone through the process of getting this to paper, because that's the emotional labor. That's the invisible love that weaves through that entire book. It's the commonality. It's the glue that keeps it together. And if
I
it,
appreciate you saying that.
I mean,
Um,
I think that's probably everybody that participates and participated in this has a connection to you.
and I feel like I mean, again, like the strings that like tethered me to everybody, like I feel like uh it's like it's the tapestry, like it has enriched my life, and people that I just didn't even know. I mean, I just put this out on Facebook and Instagram and I tagged like
Right.
writers of Instagram, and then, some people showed up and I was like, I don't know you, but sure, you can be a part of this.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Sure, let's do it.
It has definitely, it's been an expansive experience. So, so thank you all for being here. And I hope that, you pick up my book and I hope you enjoy it and feel connected to it in some way. Thanks for joining me for this episode of All the Things.